The new French Prime Minister has opened the door to possible reforms to the pension system here, a highly divisive issue in France. Francois Bayrou announced that he is to reopen talks with unions and employers during his maiden speech to Parliament today.
Les organisations syndicales ont affirmé qu'il existait des voies de progrès.
Trade union organizations say that paths to progress exist and that we can achieve the same result with a fairer reform. As such, I'm choosing to reopen this file alongside the unions for a short time with complete transparency. I want this agreement to be found, but if the different partners do not find an agreement, it's the existing reform that will apply.
C'est la réforme actuelle qui continuerait à s'appliquer.
Well, Bayrou taking on the job now of Prime Minister after his predecessor, Michel Barnier, was toppled in a vote of confidence. Catherine Norris-Trent is our senior reporter covering developments today. She's live for us in Parliament. Now, Catherine, there had been a question before Bayrou spoke that he too might face a confidence vote. Is it clear yet whether he has done enough today in that speech to avoid one?
Well, the hard left France Unbowed party had said that they will table a confidence vote following this declaration because they were not at all optimistic about the direction in which it was heading. Whether they will do so and whether they'll get support, crucially, from other allies on the left is something that remains to be seen. Following this speech, which is not quite over yet, there'll be a debate in the French Parliament, and then hopefully we'll hear more from some of the MPs on what they thought of those speeches. But I have to say, it was a very loud session of Parliament with lots of jeers and heckling. So he's clearly not convinced everyone across the political spectrum, notably on these key issues of balancing the budget and pension reforms. So he said he's opened up the pension reforms to talks with trade unions to try and address concerns on the left that it's not fairest to the poorest in society, but it's put a strict time limit on that of 3 months and has said that if not, then it's Emmanuel Macron's very unpopular pension reforms, which caused those huge street protests, which will apply. That was met with very loud boos in Parliament. So it's not sure whether he will face a confidence vote and whether he can survive. But he called the political certainty and the threat of censure hanging over the government a sword of Damocles hanging over France, and he wants to put an end to that. Whether he'll be able to is another question.
And on that crucial issue of pension reforms, as you say, Catherine, there were these major protests here against the reform in 2023. Just spell out for us why it is that this issue is so controversial, is so divisive, and keeps coming up again in French politics.
Well, it might seem strange to people outside France because, in fact, currently the state pension age is 62, and under the reforms it would gradually be raised to age 64, which might seem generous compared to other countries, even in Europe. But in France, it's a very hot button issue. Basically, having a low retirement age is something of the French dream, if you like, and touching it, raising it, is very, very difficult for any government to do. As soon as you try and reform pension reforms, huge crowds of people come out onto the streets. I've covered a lot of those big marches myself in 2022, and the people there said that absolutely it's sacred in France, that having a peaceful, long, quiet retirement was something they felt entitled to. The problem is the books don't balance at the moment. So the French pension system is one in which current workers pay for the retirees at present. You don't build up your own private pension in a pot. So it's basically, there is a disbalance at the moment between how much is needed to pay for people who are retired. So there's this kind of equation which doesn't add up, and yet it's something of a sacred issue in France, which any government finds very, very difficult to touch. And, populist parties on the hard left or on the hard right frequently say they'll bring it back down. But whether they can financially do so, economists say simply it doesn't work.
Catherine Norris-Trent for us there live in Parliament. Thanks very much indeed.